Hello and welcome to the Derby Way podcast with me, Luke Thrower and Jack Hasler. How you doing, Jack? You alright?
Good, thanks, mate.
Good. Today we'll be going over the Sheffield Wednesday game. Jack Marriott, Chris Martin and Tom Lawrence. And then we'll be looking ahead to Manchester United and Blackburn Rovers at home. So, firstly, Jack, Sheffield Wednesday. We went on Saturday. Didn't really expect that, did we?
Not at all, mate. It was an absolutely unreal performance. To be honest, I was expecting just another standard away display, just another like 2-0 loss or whatever. But it was far from that in the end. We started brilliantly, 3 early goals. Maybe would have been better if we'd have got a fourth just to sort of solidify the win late on. But we did enough to hold on and keep the 3 points, which was quite valuable 3 points, I'd like to think. Yeah,
you said during the game actually quite a few times, I feel nervous even at 3-0 up. Need a fourth. I remember you saying several times. Is it a case of that's just how the away games have been this season? It's been you can't always be comfortable. I mean, we took the lead at Luton, and we weren't comfortable there. End up losing the game. Is it just a case of maybe trying to instill that belief again away from home? And now he's got 2 home games on the bounce and then some away games after that. Yeah. Is it just a case of trying to instill that belief back in the away games that you can go anywhere and you can get 3 points?
Yeah, well, yeah, you'd probably say so. I mean, I think it's just Derby in general. You can never trust Derby to hold on to a lead. I think Rotherham is the key one where it's obviously 3-0 and end up being 3-3.
I went to that game. It was awful. That.
What a game.
Did you go?
No, I didn't. But there's obviously this season there was Swansea as well. I know we ended up winning that, but obviously 1-0 up, ended up going 2-1 down. Did eventually come back, but I think it's just obviously going so long without an away win for quite a long time this season probably is downed the confidence of everyone. But obviously getting another win like we did on Saturday is obviously big for the confidence, and hopefully the players will be able to carry that over to the next away game.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it isn't just a Koku problem, is it? I mean, Lampard had troubles with it. Rowett didn't. It was Rowett football, so we sort of expect him to turn up and ruin everyone's parade anyway. But it wasn't McLaren as well. It wasn't just a Koku thing. It's been instilled in the club for the last 5 years or so. So it just feels like this has been the more extreme of all the cases. It's just, if you take all of the last few years and you roll them up in one, that's almost what this season has been. Yeah. I think you'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a tough season. Obviously, there's been so many things going wrong, and whether that's had an effect on it or whatever. But I don't know. How do you sort of combat the sort of problems there's been, and how do you sort of
come back from what sort of hit you back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when you're losing so much away, how do you sort of instill that confidence back into the players again?
I think that's the key thing. And yet, I think you'd agree that at the start of the season, you'd probably be saying mid-table finish, couple of youngsters coming through, and a decent cup run. And yet he's on par to do that despite everything that's happened.
Yeah.
So surely that's only a good thing for the club.
Oh yeah, definitely. He deserves credit for what he's done. I think maybe you could have got in a sort of different manager, and he'd probably have done better this season. But it's not always about the short term. I think he's the long-term man to take the job, and I think you've seen that by all these young players coming in. For example, Max Bird's been brilliant over the last couple of months. Jason Knight's been pretty good as well. You've obviously got Whittaker and Sibley as well, who've been coming in and doing all right when they played. So it's only good for the future, and I think there's no reason why after this season and all the sort of difficulties that have happened, there's not going to be any time worse than there's been in this season. So hopefully after this season, Derby can sort of push on and look to build a promotion charge next season under Koku.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? There's been mistakes away from home, which again hasn't just been a Koku problem. We saw it under Lampard, making mistakes away from home, and yet he's got Thrower coming in the summer. He's got another transfer window. You've got the end of this season to look at some of the players. He is the man long term, isn't he? I think so anyway, and it sounds like you agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think even just the young players coming in is enough to show that, and obviously bringing in Thrower shows he's already thinking about next season, and I think it's clear that he knows that there's probably not much chance of Derby sort of getting in the playoffs or whatever, or going up this season, but he's already thinking about next season and trying to mount like a push. But yeah, I don't know which areas you think need to be improved in the team. Right, obviously we've got Thrower signed. You probably got Ben Hamer's probably going to go back to Huddersfield, you'd imagine. You got Matt Clark's probably going to go back to Brighton. So
you'd probably, I think for me, you're looking at another centre half anyway, because as good as Wisdom can be in there, as good as Forsyth can be in there, they're not natural centre halves for me. They're make do. You weren't expecting for them to be playing. You weren't even expecting Curtis Davies to be playing that much after what happened with Keogh, obviously. So I think another centre half, a goalkeeper, and then quite possibly a striker or two, which leads quite nicely to the next part, which is about Chris Martin. Obviously, his contract's up in the summer, but he had an amazing game away at Sheffield Wednesday, and he's put on display last couple of weeks what he can do.
Yeah, I think since he was sort of frozen out of the team over the last few years, and I don't think anyone expected him to sort of do what he's done this season. And obviously, recently he's been scoring goals. He obviously got 3 assists as well at the weekend. But he is out of contract at the end of the season. It's whether that's why he's playing so well, or does he just fit Koku's system, and is he someone that should be staying at Derby for the long term?
Well, we sort of heard in whispers in January about whether he'd be looking at bringing another striker in. Is there someone that fits Koku's style a little bit better? Because Martin is okay, but he doesn't maybe fit the pressing style he wants at times, which Waghorn does.
Yeah.
And Marriott sort of does. We'll sort of get onto that in a little bit. But Martin offers quite a lot, especially away from home, I think, with his physicality, his back to goal, the deft touches, and an outlet as well. But it's whether does he then persist with them 3 next season, Marriott, Waghorn, Martin, or does he go, okay, Martin's on a lot of money. I imagine he's on a lot of money anyway, considering he signed a new deal when he was on loan at Fulham a few years back. I imagine he's on a decent amount of money. Do you just say, okay, he might do a job for someone else, he might even do a job for us, but I need someone who's my man. I need someone who is going to fit my mould, you know. And as good as Martin is, it might just be that's some of the decisions he has to make.
Yeah, I mean, you probably would be looking at someone that's going to fit the style like perfectly. I don't think Derby have that player at the moment in terms of a striker, and obviously Martin's great, but you probably need to find someone that is going to be a little bit younger, maybe can be there for a long time, and is going to be able to play every game. Like Martin won't fit certain games, and you probably want a striker that's going to be the type of player that should be able to play in most games, if not every game, and score like 15, 20 goals a season if you want to be going up to the Premier League.
Yeah,
like a Mitrovic type player. Like he's sort of, I reckon he would fit Koku's style quite well. Obviously, there's no way Derby would sign him, but he's probably the right type of player. Like someone similar to him, will score goals, quite physical, good at getting on the end of balls into the box.
Yeah, I think he is almost an exaggerated version of Martin.
Yeah,
he has that hold-up play. But he also has an eye for goal as well, and that's not to say Martin doesn't, but you can see with the amount he chips into goals, it's not the same Chris Martin we saw in 2013-14. No. But it's not the same style. I'm not sure whether Mitrovic would fit that style. I know we're talking purely in hypothetical, but I'm not sure whether the pressing would fit, because I know he likes to press off the front foot. But I don't think Koku is happy with his strikers in terms of the selection he has. You can see him chopping and changing every week, and I think that's because he likes to pick players off of the game situation that presents itself. So you see Sheffield Wednesday, they're going to be a physical side, so rather than maybe Marriott, who would have to be running off the shoulder, as a side that needs to have a high line for him to be able to get in behind, you play Martin, who's going to bring other players into the game, allow people to run off of him, you know. But I do think he's not got that player where he thinks, this is my player who fits my style, and I'm going to play him week in, week out. You know, I don't think you could sit there and predict a Cocu team sheet.
No.
And that's not a bad thing because that means the other teams can't. But I don't think each week you go, well, this is his best team, this is his best team. I don't know if he's got one at the moment, but I think as good as Martin is, and as good as the other two strikers are as well, none of them are his players, and none of them maybe quite fit the style he wants.
No, definitely. And I think the fact that he keeps chopping and changing is probably just shows how sort of unhappy he is with the team he's got now, and I think sort of goes to show the amount of improvement that is required in the summer, because realistically a team that's going to be looking to get promoted, you wouldn't see someone like a Leeds like making 3 or 4 changes most game weeks, and I think with a striker coming in that you know is going to score a lot of goals, that sort of instills the confidence in the team, because obviously you know that they're going to score. I think that is, as we were talking about Mitrovic, I think that's probably what he is for Fulham, because even when you're losing, you know that Mitrovic is probably going to get on the end of one of your crosses or whatever.
I mean, look at the goal he scored against Derby in the draw. It wasn't even a fully fledged chance. It was a half chance from a ball whipped in, and he got on the end of it and he scored. And Fulham, another day, with the couple of opportunities they got, probably would have put them away. But they didn't have any proper chances, and yet they still scored with a half chance. Yeah, it just sort of says how good Mitrovic can be, and sort of, do Derby have that striker? I mean, look at the Waghorn chance at it was QPR, wasn't it? Where it sort of fell on his left foot in the 90th minute, and he killed it wide. And you know, has he got that striker yet? I don't think so.
No, but I agree. Like I think at PSV had was it Luke De Jong?
Yeah,
I think it was Luke De Jong. Yeah, and he was like there for quite a long time. I think he was like his main sort of man there, and it's whether does he want someone similar to that at Derby. I mean, Martin is a little bit similar in the way he's probably like able to hold the ball up. I'd imagine Luke De Jong is probably that type of player, but also Luke De Jong I think is quite tall as well. He's probably got that sort of ability to get on the end of a cross, and I think Derby sort of lack that at the minute, because most of the strikers are sort of around that sort of 6 foot sort of point, other than Mario. Obviously he's probably a bit smaller, but you probably want a striker that can be able to sort of hold up the ball and also be able to get on the end of crosses and be able to be a bit more physical up there.
Yeah, I think with the 3 strikers he almost has an amalgamation of all 3.
Yeah.
So you've got Marriott, likes to press, likes to play off the shoulder, likes to play on breaks. You've got Martin, back to goal, likes to draw in defenders, but he needs to have players running beyond him. And you've got Waghorn, who's almost like a mixture of the two. Waghorn has the press, he has a bit more pace than Martin, but he can also hold it up if his touch is good enough on the day, which we saw. I think it was about December. He was right off it. He's better now, but I think that leads quite nicely as well to Jack Marriott. He's sort of been frozen out a little bit by Cocu, but can you see why?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the style of play is the main reason. You see, like when he's playing, he always seems to be like a bit of a frustrated figure. Like he's not the like sort of the player he was last season. Last season, you'd see like him just latching onto defensive errors and scoring goals, or just chasing any ball that would come forward. But now it's sort of he looks a bit more just like he doesn't look as dangerous as he did last season. I think last season you'd be like, oh, he's there, he's going to probably score a goal, or he's got a chance of scoring a goal or something. Whereas now I think when he's in the team, he's just like basically just comes on as a sub to just sort of press, and that's about it. Like sort of just a bit more energy from the bench, and he's not really fitting the style as he'd probably like to. And I don't know whether he is going to be here next season.
Yeah, I'm not sure he fits the style at all. I think with Lampard you had quick breaks, so he was always on the shoulder. You had the killer ball from Mount and Wilson. They were able to slice open the team with a pass. Do you have that with the style, but also with the players you've got there? Because essentially, Cocu likes to play 2 deeper playing midfielders rather than just the one that Lampard would play. So you're looking to maybe control the ball and then play it wide rather than getting it higher up and then playing the killer ball. It's more of a patient style of play, which doesn't quite suit Marriott. Marriott's more of a, okay, we're going to allow them to press and then bang over the top, run onto the end of it. And he, like you say, he just looks frustrated every time I watch him. He just doesn't look, he just looks a frustrated figure. That's the only way I can really describe him. But whether he still has a future here at Derby is another question. but he's an asset no matter what way you look at it. We saw it last season, and you don't just lose that sort of quality. It's just, do you fit the right style that you're trying to play? I do think he's useful off the bench, by the way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, like I think he's the sort of player that, I mean, even though he's not playing well, you don't want to lose him, because he's shown, like, over the last few years that he scores goals, and he'll probably, if he left Derby, he'd probably go and do that for another team.
Yeah.
So it's whether it's you want to keep him happy, so he doesn't want to leave. But then I don't know, does Cocu want to, like, keep him or not? Because I don't know if Cocu sees him as his type of player.
He's I really don't know, because he looks really good whenever a game is stretched. So Sheffield Wednesday, they're pushing at 3-1. You get Marriott on, more chances over the top. That's brilliant. Yeah. But how happy is he going to be getting time off the bench when a game is stretched?
Yeah,
I don't think he will be. He wants to play games, and you can see why someone like Hull was interested in him in January. But I think a lot of it is also the fans love him. They don't want him to go, not just because of his quality, but the game away at Leeds, that's always going to be there. That finish, the 2 goals that he scored, the fans love him and they want more from him, but sometimes you have to sit there and go, well, actually, we have £1 million asset on our hand here who doesn't fit the style. Ship him off maybe while he's high in price, so then you can get in the man that you want. And that might seem a bit harsh, but that just is how football is now.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's just one of them. Like, you think about when Martin went to Fulham on loan, like you're potentially giving another striker to a promotion rival, because realistically he would be going to probably sort of a mid-table Championship side, but obviously most of those sides are going to be looking upwards and trying to sort of fight for the playoffs. So you never know whether those sort of teams could be sort of battling with you next season. So it's whether you want to take that risk, but also obviously if he's unhappy with his amount of playing time or the style of play or how he fits into it, maybe he'll want to go.
Yeah, just that Martin loan was obviously a big one. Sorry, yeah, that Martin loan was a big one. We just felt like we were missing that player, and obviously with McLaren coming back in, that was huge. And maybe Cocu does tinker around with his style a little bit. Maybe you do try and get Marriott into more games, but at the end of the day, is that the best for the club? It just looks like we're going in one direction, and it's a case of you either fit this style or you go.
Yeah,
I think. But one man Cocu is getting the best out of, though. Tom Lawrence.
Oh yeah, he's been great the last few games, and I think it's just good to see, because he's one of them where he sort of divides opinion just because sometimes he'll give away like silly little fouls and whatever, but in my opinion, he always works hard. He's always a threat, and I think when he's confident, there's not a lot of like wingers better than him in the Championship, to be honest. And I think it's also on Saturday we also saw that he's feeling a lot more confident and a lot more happy playing football, because just the way he celebrated is enough to see that. Because I think in the past when he's celebrated, you sort of see like him letting out frustration. I think now it's almost him like sort of feeling like he's hit his stride, and I think Cocu's brought the best out of him in recent weeks.
I think it's been less of frustration and relief when he scores, more of a I love playing for this club. And I think we've always seen it with Lawrence. We've always seen that potential. The same way, it's not exactly related, but you look at Roos and you see some potential, but not the full product.
Yeah.
But with Lawrence, you saw it a lot more often, but not often enough. If we were to compare it with someone like Joseph Zoom, not to completely throw him under the bus, but every time I've seen him play, I've never sat there and gone, I can see a player there, I can see some potential. And I think people also forget it's the Championship.
Yeah.
There's a reason these players are playing in the Championship. They're a lot less consistent, but it does feel like Cocu's got an arm around him and just said, look, this is what you need to be doing, and he's coached him properly. And as much as everything at the first half of the season sort of went by, he's come back brilliantly and a better player. And you never want anything like that to happen, don't get me wrong, but he has come back from it a way better player.
Yeah, and I think even when that was going on, I think there was people saying, "Oh, you need to get rid of him or whatever. Just take whatever money you can get for him because you don't want that type of player at the club." But in my opinion, I think it was always the right decision to keep him. Like he's an asset to the club. Like in terms of his quality he can bring. Like he's always going to be dangerous. Well,
it gets into an ethical issue, which I don't think is a massive thing. They're two separate things, but it just seems like he's just got this consistency out of him.
Yeah.
There seems to be a little bit more of a footballing brain there now, where beforehand he was maybe, running at players when there's nowhere to run, or he was so telegraphed at cutting inside because he loved doing that really often. He's now got a little bit more about him where he just looks like he's been coached. And sometimes you need a manager in the long term to sit there and coach a player. And I think we see that with, again, completely different case, but Solskjaer compared to Mourinho at Man United. Mourinho's never going to coach Lindelof or anyone like that to get the best out of them. Solskjaer is a long-term project. He's always going to help them improve. So I think it's the same here with Koku. He's sat there and he said, right, I need to coach this player because this can be a fantastic player. Because Lawrence is starting to hit his prime now. Yeah. Now is when you want to see the best out of a winger at his age. And I think we're finally seeing a little bit of that. And long may it continue, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even just his second goal against Sheffield Wednesday was sort of a showing of how he's improved. Because I feel like a lot of his goals are just sort of like long-range efforts or whatever. Like sort of luck of the draw, whether it will go in or whether
it's just that technique,
end up anywhere.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it could end up anywhere. But I think the second goal just was like a really nice finish, and I think that's sort of the finish of a player that's feeling much more confident, has sort of been working hard in training on sort of trying to score more goals and have more of an impact on the team, and I think he's done that brilliantly in recent weeks.
Yeah, and fair play to him for getting to where he is, because I think the jury was out on him, and suddenly.
Definitely.
Everyone's backing him, and if he's confident, that can only be a good thing for Derby, quite frankly. But looking ahead, Manchester United on Thursday, big game, possible chance at a quarter-final. Do you fancy the chances, or?
I'd love to say yes. I think it's going to be. Obviously it's going to be a difficult one. It's Manchester United. But with that, your players are going to be more up for it because they're playing against such a good team and a big club, obviously. But I think Man United will have too much quality. But also, I think for Derby mainly it's just about putting in a good performance, really, because you just want to keep the confidence and sort of transfer that over to Blackburn, because obviously the league is more important than the cup. But with what's happened this season, it would be really nice to go on and continue this cup run.
Yeah, I think it does have the feel of Man United are going to put out a strong side. Yeah. I think Ollie wants to win trophies, that's clear. And it's a fantastic chance for them to make their way into a quarter-final with what they would probably see as an easy draw, albeit away from home against a lower league opposition, you never know. But do you think the quarter-finals, if Derby got into the quarter-finals with a mid-table finish, with the youngsters coming through, would that make for a successful season? Yeah,
I think with everything that's gone on off the pitch, it would be a really good season because I know we've alluded to it quite a bit, but what happened with obviously Mason Bennett, Tom Lawrence, Keogh, all of that, I think after that Derby could sort of just plummeted and the season
could have easily got relegated.
Yeah, and I think I'd assume now Derby probably will have enough to stay in the Championship.
Let's hope that doesn't bite us.
But so I think it's been a good season. We've obviously seen lots of players develop. We're seeing like the likes of Lawrence develop now. We've obviously got like the likes of Bird and Knight in particular that are really developing quite a bit. And I think the players are starting to learn the style a lot more of Koku, and that's only going to help us for next season.
And I think if you spoke to people at the start of the season, they would have said mid-table finish. Yeah. Youngsters coming through. You then add a quarter-final to that, and considering everything that's happened this season, for Koku to be on par with the expectations, given everything that's been thrown at him, I think it can only be seen as a successful season. You wouldn't have been too upset if Cocu would have said, or the backroom staff would have said, it's been an awful season, and they would have been unhappy, and you wouldn't have had a go at them for that, because it's not been a great season. Everything off the pitch, everything that's happened, it hasn't felt good. And I think some of the fans have said it hasn't felt good to support Derby County this season. But with everything, they're still on par, and a good cup run to come with that. I think that would make for a very good season.
Yeah, and especially if you beat Manchester United on the way, there's not many better teams in the country to beat in the cup than Manchester United. And obviously we saw Derby beat Man United in the League Cup last season, so there's no reason why it can't happen again.
Albeit a very different side now.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, for both teams.
Yeah,
very different.
But I went to watch the game on Thursday, and Manchester United. If Bruno Fernandes starts, if Maguire starts, it's going to be, I imagine, a torrid night on Thursday. Because we know Derby's fragilities on set pieces, so Maguire, a natural threat, and Bruno Fernandes just has the ability to sort of pass through a side. So if them two start, it'll be interesting. But then you've got the Rooney factor, as well. He's going to be right up for it. So as much as everyone's going to be talking about it, it is Derby County versus Manchester United and not Rooney. But it's it'll be interesting to see who gets given a chance as well. Is he going to throw everyone out there? Is he going to say, right, I've already entrusted Sibley in the cup this season and we've got this far? Is he going to give someone like him a go? Does he give Roos another go? I don't think so, but I think he's already given him his chance.
Yeah,
but
I think he had his chance in the game against Huddersfield. Based on what Cocu said after the game, he didn't really take the chance, which is a shame, because obviously last season he was there for the most part of our sort of playoff sort of run, but
from January onwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just it's unfortunate that he didn't take his chance. But away from that, do you go with the full strength or do you not for that game, do you think?
I think you give it a right good go.
Yeah.
I think you mix it up. You never know what you're going to get with Coco at the end of the day.
To be fair, we don't actually know what the full strength team is really.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
If I was him, I would probably put out what I would see as the strongest team, but also obviously the team that you think fits that game best.
Yeah. Do you go with both attacking fullbacks, Lowe and Bogle? Do you go for them too? Because they're very attacking, and I've said away from home, it was a question I asked in the presser on Saturday, is it a case of trying to find that balance? Because Forsyth and Bogle together was very good on Saturday, albeit the whole side played pretty well. Do you try and... I think it's the common question when you come up against a big side. It's the question Villa had for Man City yesterday. Do you go for it, or do you sit back, or do you try and find that middle ground?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the fullbacks question, I think I would probably start Lowe and Bogle, because although Derby are the lower league side, why not
Take
try
the game
and why not try and play on the front foot? And I don't know if that's just because I probably prefer Lowe and Bogle just because they're sort of younger players and I want to see them do well. But I think they are players of great potential, and I think a game like playing in games like this, it's only going to help them grow and again gain confidence if they put in a good performance against a team like Manchester United.
Well, I mean, they're going to be hungry, aren't they? I mean, Forsyth and Wisdom have probably played in countless games like this. Give the young lads a chance, maybe. See what they can do. They're going to be hungry. Can we see maybe Whittaker show a little bit of the quality that Cocu sees in him? Because we haven't quite seen it yet, albeit he hasn't had a massive chance to do that. I think QPR was the one time where he's come off the bench and he looked okay. But, I think you entrust the youngsters to some degree. They've got you here already. Yeah. They've already shown, what they can do in the league. Give them a chance. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Sibley start. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe him start on Sunday against Blackburn. But we move on to Blackburn Rovers then on Sunday. Another home game. What are we expecting from that?
Well, I'd like to think it'll be just a standard. What we've seen from Derby this season at home, it's been a lot of sort of standard little 2-0 wins, 1-0 wins, clean sheets. I'd like to think we'll see that again. But Blackburn obviously are a good side. They've only lost 1 in their last 10. And they're 8th. They're really pushing for a top 6 finish, so it's going to be a tough one. And I think Derby will have to be at their best if they're going to take all 3 points.
Well, I mean, Mowbray's got them playing a style that has got them results. At the end of the day, 3 points off playoffs, and Preston's form dipping, so they'll come here full of confidence, and I'm sure they'll want to get something from Derby. But again, the home form's so good that you'd imagine that Derby will get at least a point from it. You'd think, just given how they've played this season. But I suppose the question is, and it's unfair to ask you because I don't think Cocu quite knows himself, but the home form's fantastic. Why is that so different from what we've seen away from home, do you think?
I think it's the I mean, I'm not an expert, but I would say it's probably...
Don't put yourself down. Football journalist over here.
I'm
an expert.
No, I would say it's related quite possibly related to the style of play. Perhaps he hasn't quite sort of established a style which he wants to play away from home. He's got that sort of dominant possession-based football sort of thing at home, but away from home you're more likely to get dominated by the home side that are going to be sort of putting on the pressure. And I don't know if he's found a way to combat that yet, but hopefully he will. I think at the weekend on Saturday we saw a bit more of what we'd like to see in the future. I think you said earlier, like a bit more of the pressing and sort of winning the ball back high up the pitch, which is something which I don't think we've seen a lot from Derby away from home this season.
No, I think their energy off the ball and out of possession has been better. We've seen a lot less of that at home. We haven't seen many sides, if any at all, come and dominate the game. And I don't think Derby have sort of had to sit there and go, well, how are we going to play out of possession? How are we going to do when we're in a defensive shape? How are we going to press? We've not seen so much of that at home, and I think that maybe that's where it's covering up the weaknesses, and it can be almost like paper over the cracks. It's almost like this is brilliant from Derby because they're able to play games where, you know, they're in their attacking shape. They're able to take the game to sides. They're on the ball a lot more, but away from home, it's the complete opposite. You're almost on the back foot. You're having to sit there and go, right, how are we going to do this defensively? How are we going to press them? When are we going to press them? What shape are we going to hold? We see a lot less of that. So at home, absolutely fantastic. It's almost the extreme of, like I said earlier, it's almost like every season, every of the last 5 seasons rolled up into one to be an extreme. So it's almost like you've got this amazing home form, which is what we're sort of used to, and this terrible away form, and it's the extreme, the two polar opposites. And all you're finding, and this is the case for every championship club trying to get promoted, is that balance and that consistency. You know, you've got an amazing home form, that's brilliant, but what are you like away from home? And I think even an average away form would see Derby pushing playoffs. But at home, fantastic, and I suppose all he has to do really is, for the time being, entertain the home crowd, because realistically that's 25,000, 26,000 punters who are watching your football that you're trying to keep on board, as opposed to, as harsh as it sounds, 2,000 or 3,000 who are making the trip. And albeit that can be a draining trip, and I'm sure it has been for many this season, us two included at times, Hull being the main one, I'm sure. But absolutely soaked getting into the press room for that, weren't we? But
what a lovely day that was. Lovely day.
Yeah, but I think overall, I agree. You sort of expect a routine win, and I think that's probably unfair on Blackburn because people sit there and say it's Blackburn Rovers, but realistically, it's going to be the same as Derby rocking up at Wednesday on Saturday.
Yeah, no. You say the name, Blackburn, and I think everyone's like, oh, they're probably sort of fighting against relegation. It'll be a relatively simple win, but I mean, I was surprised when I saw the table that they're actually 8th.
Yeah.
And this season they've had a really strong season, and I mean they're pushing for the playoffs, so it is going to be a difficult game, and like Derby will have to realise that. And I mean, hopefully they can put in a similar performance to what they did against Fulham, because obviously Fulham were again another top side. Derby played quite well against them,
albeit a different style.
Yeah, very different style. But I mean, I think Blackburn will probably be more sitting back sort of thing, trying to get Derby on the counter. But
yeah, I think that's where we have to sit there and go, well, you know, Cocu's sort of horses for courses style, where he picks it's a legitimate saying. It's picking the right horse for the right course. So, would you play Marriott against Blackburn? Probably not, because you haven't got the space in behind. Would you play Martin if you can get people running beyond him? Yes, because you're going to be able to pull around the defence. But at the end of the day, they're going to be physical. They're going to try and take the game to us as much as Derby are going to try and take the game to them in an attacking sense. And at the end of the day, they need to be respected, because the same way that Sheffield Wednesday fans and pundits themselves even said on Twitter, oh, it's just Derby. I'm sure Derby fans will be looking at Blackburn the same way, and they cannot be underestimated by any means, because Mowbray's obviously built a decent side, and he gets the most out of players, and that's all you can ask for a club, no offence to them, of that size. Sometimes it was the same with McCarthy at Ipswich. He was just working with what he's got and getting the players for his style, and it worked well for them. So, fair play to them. They're only 3 points off playoffs. They're pushing quite nicely. Can Derby halt that run is the question, because they've had 3 draws on the bounce now, and you'd fancy Derby to take at least a point.
Yeah.
But I think they can't be underestimated. I wouldn't be surprised if Derby came away with a loss, a slim loss, because we saw Millwall rock up and do it. It's not like they played fantastic football. We know what route football's all about, but they gave us a tough game. Derby weren't able to break them down and caused problems, and obviously was enough to win the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a similar game from Blackburn, but they're a good side, and I think if anyone's underestimating them, then prepare for a completely different game on Sunday. I think that much can be said. So thank you for listening. This has been the Derby Way podcast with me, Luke Thrower. My Twitter is @LukeThrower45. Do you want to plug yours, Jack?
It's @JackHasler23. Some great content there.
Oh, fantastic.
Well worth a follow. Instagram's the same as well.
Instagram? Oh, you're plugging the Instagram. Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to plug my Instagram. So add me on LinkedIn. No, so we'll wrap up there. Hopefully we'll be back same time next week, roughly. We're just trying to figure out a schedule at the moment. Being uni students and everything, we're just trying to work our way around it. So it's the first recording. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully we'll see you off the back of quite possibly 2 Derby County wins.